So
My name is Abena Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmas, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah, 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 yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday. It's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs. Hey. In diaspora. Current affairs. Hey. Reliable information. History. Ooh. Talking about culture. Yeah. Politics. Education. Entertainment. Yeah. Business. Sports. Advertisement. Articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
hello, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for joining us. It is Friday. This is not Dennis Job. This is J. Victor Nagbe. It's good to be here. We're closing out 2024. Thank you for joining us and helping us do that. Tonight we'll examine the president's statement in Lofa and its implications on the Republic. Here to help me do that, let me bring in Mr. Gabriel Carter. Hey, Gabe, what's up?
Mr. Nagbe, it's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. And also joining us is my friend Mohammed Sharif. Mohammed, what's up, brother?
Not bad, not bad. Thanks for having me.
Man, what a year it has been. This has been almost like a Donald Trump on steroid. Every day there's something breaking this government. So tonight our producers, they want us to focus primarily on the president's remarks in Lofa County. As you know, the president was up there commemorating the 60th anniversary of 4 counties joining the union. That would be Lofa, Bong, Nimba, and Granji. And pretty much colorful event. But towards the end of the program, the president apparently put his foot in his mouth. We heard him take the stage, and I'm going to read what he said, as was reported in the press. We want to encourage those who want to remain corrupt and steal money. I beg y'all, the money should be used to bless our people. Gentlemen, tonight we want you to react to this statement. Are you surprised and not surprised? Are you troubled? Not troubled by this statement. If you are troubled or not, why? Do we think the president's statement is an endorsement of corruption? Do you think this president is endorsing corruption? Is the statement either indicating or is he giving up on the fight against corruption? Is that what he's telegraphing to us? Do you think this president misspoke? I mean, we know him to be the laid back president, the reflective president, slow to speak president, and yet, do we think he misspoke? What does it say about this president, this administration? Um, is this distorting? Do we think we're running away with a lot too soon? Are we misinterpreting this statement? Are we distorting its meaning? Our producers also want us to discuss what do you think? What do we think? This statement is an indictment of this president's government, entire appointments, officials. So there is a lot down in here. I mean, on here for us to unpack. We will continue to unpack it as we trudge along. Hopefully, some of the guys will join us. But Gabe, let's hear you, man. What did you hear when you listened to the president?
Mr. Nagbe, thank you. That is it's a great question, but I think I want to look at it from both sides, right? From a sympathizer with this president, one would have thought, for most people, they would probably think this is someone who misspoke, right? If you hear it, and you're maybe Unity Party partisan, as they call themselves, or supporter, you might say, the president misspoke. Maybe he intended to say something else, but it didn't come out the right way, and it was reported the wrong way, right? However, if you have been following this president since he took office, and you listen to the speech and you listen to that statement, you will understand that it aligns with his inactions, with everything on corruption, right? If you look at the cases of corruption since his inauguration, and you look at the fact that he hasn't been able to do anything since to set an example out of anyone, and you compare it to this statement, it affirms that this is somebody who's given up. Meaning, yeah, 10 months in, 11 months in, if you're going to steal, make sure, I think it was one of the other senator who made that similar statement, that you just make sure you spend the money in the country, right? Or spend it on the people, right? So I said it to say that in as much that when I heard the statement, I wanted to give him the benefit of doubt to say, and he misspoke, or maybe whoever wrote that speech, if it has any speech writers, maybe they, didn't articulate it the right way, or maybe he didn't articulate it the right way and it came out the wrong way. But if you look at the history of the president since he's took over and the cases of corruption that has plagued him, and he has been inactive to do anything at all, this is a testament that he is giving up the fight. And that's exactly what came out in that speech. Lastly, I will say this before I yield. And this is a caution. We just had this compact, the MCC compact passed. We're being told that we're supposed to get 500 million. Now, that 500 million was the work that was done by the CDC, in as much that they weren't effective. This was their work. They passed it. They never got the first 250 million. We saw Samuel Toy dancing and singing. They never got it. There is a reason why that fund was not released, because there was blatant corruption, unfettered, in our faces. You couldn't hide it. So the board made an excuse to not release that fund. And here's the point that I'm trying to make here. With those kind of statements that the president is currently making, the international partners are right in your doorstep. They're in the country watching you. They're seeing what is happening, right? If you continue to repeat exactly what CDC did, to which they were, even though they passed that compact scorecard, they were not giving the grant, you could put yourself on the same path of having that $500 million withheld. Again, they can make up the excuse, just like they did with WIA. So this is a caution to the Unity Party people and to the president that you were put in power to lead, to stamp out corruption, to make sure that every citizen in our country has the ability to self-actualize. Do that, and make sure you do the right thing instead of giving up on, the fight of corruption. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe. Mohammed, I mean, you're a student of politics and history, man. What when you listen to? I know Gabe has you know that's what he heard. You cannot interpret for the man what he heard. What did you hear when you listened to the president on that Sunday?
Just a little bit. I haven't followed this all that much. Just a little bit, but the gist that I got was sufficient for me to render some type of logical analysis. I believe that he misspoke. Right. That's the way I look at this. Um, but that said, then there needs to be a cleanup. Where is the cleanup crew that's going to come in now and say, look, this is what the president meant. The president didn't mean that people can go and steal willy nilly. The president was just saying that, keep developments in Liberia. Part of the Liberianization policy is to keep developments. Don't take your money. Don't take your savings. Abroad. Don't opening Swiss bank accounts. American bank accounts. Keep your savings in Liberia. Create jobs in Liberia. So if I were a spokesperson tomorrow morning or next week, perhaps. This is what, I will go to the executive mansion, talk to the executive mansion, ask for permission to release something like this. This is not what the president meant. The president meant that, development for your country, you should be nationalistic in your development outlook in what you spend and where you spend. Vacation in somewhere in Norfolk County, take a vacation in San Nicole, take a vacation in Wedgewood, Greenville. Instead of going to Paris. Things along those lines can do a better cleanup than leave it as it is. But what do I know? Nobody is going to clean up anything. It is sad. And, this sort of mentality of, let it be. I don't care what the people think about this. I'm just going to say what I say. I think that advisors.
Did they come up? Did they come up with a clarification though, Mohammed?
They did.
Oh, did they come up with clarification?
They did. They did.
Okay, and where was the clarification?
Well, along the lines of what you're saying, that the
Okay.
president misspoke, he meant something different, and something different came out.
Again, so that's excellent. That's excellent. So if again, just going to let you know that I listened to a little bit. I didn't follow the whole thing. So if they came up with this clarification, that is excellent. This is the way you clean up. If they put it exactly along the lines that I'm putting this, then yes, because we're all allowed, aren't we? Once in a while to make mistakes. We all misspeak. Look, on this show, sometimes when I say something and I go back and watch, say, "Oh, that one sentence. How did I say this? I don't know why." So I will come back the next show and say, "Look, I didn't mean this. This is what I meant." So we're all allowed to make mistake because the last thing you want to do as president of the Republic of Liberia is to grant license for people to steal. People who are already stealing. Over the top stealing that's going on, theft and robbery that's going on of the Liberian economy, that's going on. You don't want to give them additional license to steal more. How much more now? They're already getting millions, and some people are getting tens of millions. So now what you're doing now, if this sticks, if this is not clarified and pushed back upon, then people are going to now are doing, gunning for billions. People want to be billionaires off the backs of the poor people. So that's not what you want to do as president. You can't say, oh, if you're going to be late, just be late 5 minutes. If you're going to be late, just 10 minutes is good. No, none of that stuff is good. If you have to report to the office at 8 o'clock, you as a minister, you should be there 30 minutes before that office opens, at least. An hour before that office opens. so that you know what's going on. So you can't say that, but the fact that they have now cleaned up, as you're saying, J. Victor, that is great, and I commend them for cleaning up. Look, when they do good things, we have to say that they do good things, right? We're not anti-government, you know that. When the government does something good, we have to go back and look at this and say, okay, good. This is great. And lastly, I just want to talk about these counties, that are now 60 years old. President Tubman's unification policy is the outcome of the creation of these counties. Lofa County, Bong, Nimba, and Grangeda counties. Before that, these counties were regions. So you had the northern region, you had the central region, the eastern region. And along with the creation of these counties, the president made sure, President Tupman, that roads were built from Monrovia, Monrovia to Zoedru and different parts of those areas. I believe it was my mom or somebody in my family told me that the first time that motor vehicles arrived in Zoedru around that year, people were just, tons and tons of people, just went around this one vehicle that came to town. And, some people had never seen a car in their area in their life. So that was the first time. And they just, went around this vehicle, tons and tons of people. They were so happy that road network had reached their town, had reached their cities. So now I think Liberia needs to go beyond where you left these roads in 64 to the very interior, Siboken and places like that, Toloken and places like that. No roads. People walk in rivers. People, sitting on raft and, sometimes the somersault into the water. So we're talking over 100 years that, there has been nothing done for the hinterland. There needs to be more for those people way, way back there, as Dennis was said, behind God's back. What has been done for those people? Those people are paying taxes too. They're paying taxes too.
Mohammed, thank you very much. Your mom and I, we must come from maybe around the same age, because look, what she said is quite true. Where I come from, Barobo, maybe now there is an occasional vehicle coming through, but we are far removed. We are close to where you're from Babel. I remember we'll gather in the middle of the town in the evening, in the dead of night, to count the sounds of those trucks, that haul those trucks that haul the logs. We used to call them Jumbo. I don't know where that name came from.
Right.
And that occasional car that will come in town.
Man, you're going deep.
We will gather and sniff the fuel from the
I
exhaust,
remember that
because
name.
the
Jumbo.
afterburn. So your mom, she's onto something. But I tell you, it's funny how up to this day, the country, some parts are still inaccessible. But let me ask you this, Mohammed, before you go. And for full disclosure, you supported this president, but you've been very vocal on where you think they have fallen off the cliff. I gave you that. But let's assume that the president meant to discourage corruption. He meant to encourage investment. Could he have just said, invest your money in improving the country, and left out stealing? And if you want to steal, corruption? Could he have just called on us, like even those of us here in the diaspora? He could have appealed to us. Right now, there is a diaspora return that is happening in Liberia now. All of December, there are diasporan, I think they call it Decemberies or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He could have magnified, he could have highlighted this and said something along the line without mentioning, if you want to steal, we encourage you. And that's why it's causing the conflict. How do you put those in the same sentence? Help me unpack this.
Yeah. You don't. I mean, that was part of what I said earlier, and the fact that they came back and as you all mentioned, you and Gilbert said that they came back and cleaned up. So so a cleaned up is a good thing in something like this. No, it was not the proper way. Regardless, so you can't say you can now argue, as some diehard UP members who are probably watching us are going to say, this is not patriotic to speak this way. But what I'm saying here now is, regardless, you can't put this in any kind of semantics, right? It's not. It's clear as daylight. It was said clearly, if you're going to still, invest right here, just like McGill a couple of years ago. Like he said to to the people of Bond County, he said,
Yep.
I'm putting my money. The people say I steal, but I put my money right here in Bond County. These houses are not going to be removed.
And we know where that got in, right?
And that is not right as well. So again, as president, as the role model of the country, and everybody is calling you the father of the country, the father of the nation. Presidents in Liberia are very, very, very powerful. Whatever they say, whatever they do, people follow them. People, follow their examples, and people go to work, and because if the president is going to show up in their ministry, they go to work early. People do that. That used to happen in the past, and I'm sure is no different now. So if the president spoke this way, it gives license to people, those who are already stealing, to do more, or those who are on the fence to jump over the fence, into, on the side of corruption. So you don't want to speak this way, because it's very inimical to the social fabric of the nation. It's not a good thing. I'm glad that it was cleaned up. I'm glad that, I hope that the president can then come back and say something else. What I meant to say was, he himself needs to do that. What I meant to say the other day was, if you're going to invest your hard-earned money, you mentioned even those of us are here, you call on us.
Yeah.
If you want to invest, come home and invest.
Come home.
Do this, engage the diaspora, engage people here in the United States, engage folks in Europe and Asia and elsewhere. A very deliberative attempt should be made to engage the diaspora, because keep in mind, the diaspora is very powerful. The diaspora should not be looked at in this sort of adversarial way. We should be looked at as partners in progress. And I think that once they do that, they will be up to good things. And like you mentioned, I have always supported President Boakai. President Boakai, I think, is a good man. However, I have what is Dr. Duplo doing?
Go ahead. That's the brother from the north of the border.
I have tremendously disagreed with him on the issue of the attempted coup in the legislature. I'm never going to agree with him on that. I'm never going to agree with the president on the attempt to mutilate or demolish the demolition, the full-scale assault on our democracy. That is very dangerous. That is even more dangerous than corruption. When you talk about the fabric of democracy, that we don't have, our democracy, if it goes away in this manner, then you can forget everything else. So this is where I still stand. And this is where I'm going to continue to stand until the right thing is done. If the right thing is not done, I'm going to still continue to speak this way. Because lastly, J. Victor, is that, independents like myself, independents everywhere who were with this president, have fled this president on this particular issue. Right now, this president's approval unscientifically, just reading the tea leaves, is underwater. Is underwater right now. If you take a poll, this president is underwater based on what they've just done in the legislature.
So
Thank you, Mohammed.
can I push back
So-
on one thing that he says quickly?
Yeah, I'm coming
and
to you
I think,
again. I'm coming to you. Hold that thought. Don't lose it. But our producers are indicating we have to be very, very economical with our time. So let's keep that at the back of our mind. Give as you're coming. Let me ask you this. I know that let's talk about the cleanup, and then you can come on to what you. The fact that there is a cleanup after the president's statement, right? Isn't that actually the bigger problem here? I mean, look, I am in my 60s. When I'm going to the grocery store, I mean, you guys are young, but the advent of the cell phone and all of that, we now have what is called PDA, personal digital assistant. I write stuff on my phone, or else I go into the grocery store and I forget what I went to buy.
Forget.
I'm
Yep.
in my
Yep.
60s, right? Aging is a thing, it happens. Do you think this president is being managed well? I mean, he's an octogenarian for Christ's sake. He's in his
And
80s.
that
You think
was
it's
one of
fair
the
for them to just let him loose like that and put him out in front of the radio or the television and just let him rip at it? Or talk to me about his management and how this
and,
is an indication of a larger problem, if it is.
and that is one of the other point that I made earlier, and I think I may have glossed over that, briefly. And as I said, I wanted to push back on Mr. Sharif statement. One of it at least. It's one thing to come back and clarify, or label it as misrepresentation. You know, what we are. You're not the presidents or and his supporter are not the only people who can understand language. You know, there were many people who listened to that, and they got the same idea out of it. That this is a president who misspoke. We can even give him the benefit of the doubt that he misspoke. Maybe he misspoke. But again, it goes back to the point that Mr. Nagbe is saying here. As old as the president is, even if there was a speech writer there with somebody his age, even if he was young, you want him to go over the material, present it to you guys, and say, okay, if you were to present this to an audience, tell me how would you think they will understand it to be, right? Let's say I'm in a room with all of you and I'm going to give a speech. I will present that speech to you and say, okay, how do you think you understood this speech? From each different perspective, I want to hear it. Now, if three of you guys understood it one way, then I'll say, okay, that's how the larger audience will interpret it. But you cannot come out and give a speech where you tell people if they want to, for those that who wants to be corrupt, if they should spend the money on the people in the country. You may have not said it directly, but it is implied that you're encouraging corruption, right? And this is what everybody heard. And for me, but I think we can discount the president, right, and go back to his advisors. This is someone who is basically being mismanaged or not being advised correctly. And we say this all the time here. This is not my first time saying it. I'm not the only person who said this before. There are many people who said it. There's many decisions he's taken. Like one of the things that you mentioned, his assault on our democracy. If there were credible advisors around this president, they would have advised him correctly from a constitutional standpoint. This is what you do. You don't do this. If you do this, you will be seen as a dictator, like a semi-dictator or even a dictator, right? But again, it goes back to his advisors. But I believe he said what he said, and that's exactly what he was intended to say. And I think this is someone who's given up on his fight on corruption. He does not have a iota of strength in him or any policy mechanism to help him fight corruption. He is throwing in the towel. This is a white flag to corruption. And we will continue to see that as we go along. I yield.
Thank you. Mr. Duke is struggling. I think he will join us. So, our friend Wall is busy already. He's accusing me of gaps, which I've already accepted. And what did I say? I said, all of us, yeah, we're prone to gaps. And this is why you must write it down, right? Because you are bound to slip up if you don't write it down. And I'm saying, if the advisors, even if they give him bullets, Mr. President, 1, 2, and 3. That's all you should talk about. Don't go beyond these points. I think we'll avoid these gaps. But Mr. Wallow, I claim my own. I'm human, just like the president is. We get it. But that's why he is a president. That's why he has managers. I don't have advisors like he does. So, but anyway, Duke, welcome to the show. Are you settled in, brother? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, you're a little bit too reclined. Can you sit forward a little bit, and then thank you very much. It's nice of you to join us, man. We're discussing the president's statement in Lofa on Sunday. Have you listened to it? Have you read it? What do you make of it?
Yeah, I read that. I actually heard it as soon as the statement was made. But you have to understand that I think you said something earlier. This is the man that has people who are trained in managing his kind of situation, and they get paid for managing him. And for such a statement to come from him, it just for me personally, it speaks to the larger problem that we have, which is the outlook on corruption, the outlook on how to manage corruption in our country. I think as soon as the people come to power, they realize that dealing with the corruption is much harder than they thought prior to becoming president, prior to becoming leader. And so, such a statement is just an affirmation of how he's thinking. Because I mean, if 28, yeah, and if a statement like that comes from the president of the republic in time like these, for me, it only shows that despite whatever he is doing, despite what his government is doing, they are not genuinely trying to arrest the issue of corruption, but rather to appear as if they are doing something about it. And I say this because when you factor in things that have happened since the inception of this new government and steps they have taken and things that they have done, they all indicate that they are not genuinely fighting corruption. They are not sincerely trying to eliminate corruption. I mean, nobody expects them to eliminate, but I mean, they are not trying to make a significant dent in terms of their policies, in terms of things they have said, in terms of things they have done. And so this statement just reinforced that thinking. And as you may know very well, Victor, that in politics, perception is reality. And with that said, you said something further, which is age. I think it's now obvious that this man is aging. This man is really very soon he's going to be incapacitated in governing. And I think these were some of the things that Prince Johnson was banking on, thinking that this man is not going to be able to even serve out his full term. But he's showing signs that he's going to be either incapacitated sooner, and this is going to be leading to the gaps and all those things that we are seeing, Victor. So I'm not surprised that this is happening. And
Thank
like I
you.
said, it just speaks to the larger problem that we all know.
Thank you, Duke. And again, welcome, Mohammed. I know you, your earlier introduction, you seem to be cutting the president a little bit of slack here. You think he misspoke, and I gave you that. But if we isolate that statement and just consider the statement all by itself, it would seem like an unintentional, slip up. But then if you put this in the context of the government's performance, right? LTA, no resolution, inauguration vehicles, nothing is being said, LDA took forever, there are serious cases of corruption that are occurring, on this president's watch that he seems either unwilling or incapable of addressing. So if you take this statement and juxtapose that on what we already know, I mean, there are lots of them. I'm just giving you maybe 2% of what we hear and read about. Should we really be concerned here? Do we think this president really intentionally slipped up? Or is this president actually expressing his internal representation, what he thinks and feels?
Yeah. So if you didn't put the question in that way, so it's that's a beautiful way sort of mix things up and look at it from that
I think
perspective.
I'm practicing from Dennis.
Yeah,
So
it is awesome. If you didn't put it that way, I would say, well, why are we doing it? You know, why are we delivering this point? Because it seems like it's a slow news day, right? So, but the fact that you put it that way is very important. Yes, I mean there has been a series of events that have occurred under this administration where leads you to question their commitment to corruption and good governance. But this is a year one. I will hope that in the next couple of years to come, that all of this is going to be taken care of. It is my hope. At some point, as Liberians, sometimes you want to pin your hopes somewhere. So I'm really, believe it or not, I'm rooting for them to succeed so badly. The patriotic fervor in me, and I believe in all of us, is for them to succeed so badly, because if they succeed, Liberia succeeds. If Liberia succeeds, each and every one of us succeed. Every one of us, hopefully, it will trickle down to all of us. If nothing else, it will be that pride that there was a government that did all of this. Look, decades after Tolbert, we're still talking about some of his developments. Decades after Tupman, we're still talking about some of the things that he did. The unification policy, we're still talking about that right now. We're still talking about some of the. I still reminisce on some of the institutional structures that were put in place in at the turn of the 19th century, such as the regularity of our elections, back then. I still reminisce, and I'm still thinking, God, why didn't I live that time, to participate in that process around that time? It seemed like that time was a little bit uh, better in terms of the regularity of election. Look, there was a time that an official of government was impeached around that time. There was that time an incumbent president was defeated around that time. Around that time, a party, major party was defeated, in an election. The True Week Party was not the first party, as we all know. It was the Republican Party. And so they were defeated. And so I reminisce about those moments when we could have built, as imperfect as those moments were, Liberia could have built on those achievements. So by now, in 2024, we would have been the example of West Africa, if not the entire Africa. But look, we're still struggling. And every time we say something, we have to say, here, our fragile democracy, we have to qualify to say we're fragile. We have to qualify to say we're poor. We have to qualify to say, who are we? Oh, Uncle America, Big Brother America, Father America, here's our hands. We always have our hands out. It's a shame, it's a disgrace to us, black men, black men and women around the world, Liberians particularly. It's a disgrace that our governments, are coming out to Europeans and Americans for handouts when we have the resources right back there. And what we're doing with the resource, we're paying ourselves. Our bureaucracy is very top heavy. The public sector, as when you listen to Gilbert, some of the things that they espouse on their show, the poor management of our economy, which leads us to beggars every single year. I mentioned last time, where did the loan of 1871 take us? Where did the loan of 1910 take us? Where did all the loans up to the 40s and the 50s, when Liberia, in the 50s, when Liberia was supposed to be this prosperous nation, what did that do 20 years later, 30 years later? You can't see anything. There's nothing to account for. And we're still in this sort of doldrums, the economic abyss. We're the laughing stock. So I can go on and on and on with this. So it's the reason why, you want to root for a government to succeed, because those of us who are conscious, we want, government. Even George Weah, there were times that I was wishing for George Weah to succeed, because as Liberian, you want your country to succeed. You don't want to see the same thing over and over and over and again, especially after you've lived in the West, in these Western countries for a period of times. You see things in your neighborhood that you espouse, and you want the same thing for your country.
Thank you, Mohammed. Gabe, you mentioned the MCC compact, the challenge and the potential, and let's be very clear about this. Um, it was Amara Kone who advised our people in the early days to manage our expectations. I think this government will do well to let the citizenry understand that it has really won nothing. The qualification that we received is far less than what George Weah received in his last days. 14 against 10, and he got nothing. And so there are a lot of people who are already they're measuring the curtains, on this $500 million, what to do with it, and how, but we all know that this is based on up to, I think, March of this year, and then
It is.
this government's own assessment will begin thereafter. But look, we're here talking about the illegal removal of an elected speaker. That is a major problem. We're talking about the lightning speed 6G passage of $880 million with all kinds of stuff in it, all the pork. Now, of course, it explains why all of this obsession over having the pro tem, the speaker, everybody coming from the Unity Party-led government. And now this statement, again, if you take this statement in context, should we worry here? I mean, is this just much ado over nothing, or is this a reflection of a real deep-seated problem in this UP government?
So I will take it bite by bite, and I think I will take off what Mr. Sherry left off in terms of why all these loans that we've gotten, we have not seen anything, any tangible results, that we can point to and say this is, when we got this loan, this is what we're able to do with it. You go into other African countries, like perfect example, Ghana, they borrowed their way to development, right? Sometimes they were even default. But if you go in Ghana, you will see infrastructures that were the derivatives of those loans that they were taking out, which leads me to our point. The first compact, when I think the first president, not the first president, when President Salif got elected, was spent on the hydro, and for those who, if you live in Liberia, you understand the current, electricity problem. It wasn't put to use effectively. What it's supposed to do, it didn't do that, right? So we can't really point to that compact to say it gave us sustainable electricity, 24 hours electricity. This brings us to the other point here. And I said this earlier, yes, and we have to give credit to this CDC government. They did all the work for this 500 million. The first 250 plus the current 250 that we're getting, even up to March, as you stated, right? So we have to give him the credit. However, I stated this earlier, and I will say this again. The reason why that grant was not released to CDC is because of its behavior, the behavior of the administration, the level of corruption, the $25 million mop-up, and everything else blatant that they were doing in broad day, right? Now, this current government is repeating the same thing. We've seen, like you pointed out, the assault on our democracy with the speakership that is currently in quagmire. You and I are seeing it. We're not the only people with eyes. There are an international partner right in our country who are paying attention to that. They're seeing everything that is happening. Next year, when your score card comes to the table to get
Right.
assessed, all of those things will be right in front of them. They've been fighting over, they cannot resolve a speakership. There's a president who's taken over who cannot fight, who cases of corruption, even on his inauguration day, has yet to persecute anybody or hold anybody accountable, right? There's the case of the budget. And we now understand why they were trying to remove this speaker, because you want to fly thing to just like a red pen or blue pen all the way through with no hesitation or anybody standing in your way. That was the whole point here. However, if you look at the budget, like you rightly pointed out, is made of pig fat. Lot of expenditure, recurring expenditure, nothing. Matter of fact, if you go back to 2023 budget from WIA, it has more from a percentage standpoint towards infrastructure development than this government does, right? So you and I are not the only people assessing these things and talking about it in the in at least the luxury you and I have is we are broadly opening out and talking about these things. But your international partner look at these things, they put numbers on the board and they assess these things behind closed door. As a student, you're pretty much in a class. Comes 2025, your scorecard will be in front of the principals. Say, let me assess this country and see how they've done. And from what I can see so far, this is going to be an F minus if there's even a scores as such, right? So I say this to say that, in as much that we think this government is doing so much, and I said this before we even got on air, the path on which they're treading, if not much care is taken, if we don't have some reshuffling done within either the advisory standpoint from his advisor's standpoint or even in his cabinet positions, they would perform, and I would say this clearly, they will perform even worse than George Weah. And it will make this Weah government look as if they were saints. Because there was a lot of expectation placed on this government. They talked about no car being stuck in the mud in 100 days. Well, he can't even drive the Lofa. He has to fly in it. You go to Monrovia when it rains. Like traffic, there's puddles everywhere.
And it's long been past 90 days.
And it's long been past 90 days, we're 10 months in, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we, not just the citizens or you, the independents here, will be assessing these things. The citizens are seeing these things. And as I always tell people, if you don't believe what you, myself, and everybody else talk about, call your relative back home and have a conversation with them. They will give you the first-hand assessment of what the economy is on the ground. And for me, I think that is the caution that this president should be taking. That in as much that we think that he has 42 years of experience, we are not seeing any of that. We're seeing a performance of a novice that is who doesn't even know what he's doing, or who doesn't even know how to pick advisors to begin with. And so he is fumbling from goalpost to goalpost trying to get things right. And it's not working for him. I yield.
Thank you, Gabe. Dude, look, do you think we're getting money from MCC? I mean, look, Judge Weir, as we indicated earlier, got a higher percentage of passage than this current government. But this government was plagued with rampant corruption, extrajudicial killings. All right. And what did he get? His chief of office staff sanctioned, his party secretary general sanctioned, his mini-me at the port sanctioned, right? Now, this government, there may not be, the extrajudicial killings, but we cannot say that corruption is not prevalent under this current president's watch. I mean, the stories abound in the press. And now we burned down the Capitol building, all because we want to corrupt our way into the budget, right? The University of Liberia is closed, right? The nation's, University, yeah, there are other private universities, and other, but this is our state-owned university. It's closed, and I don't remember any time when the university was closed because of lack of funding. I mean, there have been other issues, but I don't know. You guys went to the university. I went to Cardinal, but I don't remember if the university ever closed because the government is unable to fund the operational budget of the university library. And then the president goes to Lofa, he gives $24,000 because he gave $1,000 to the students. You know what? How many students? What is $1,000 going to do for the student anyway? This is the minimalist, gesture that we're talking about. So, but anyway, let's come back to the MCC. Do you think we're going to get any money, dude? Given the way we're going.
Well, yes, I think we might, but we
So
all
you're Santa. You're not the Grinch as Gabriel. You're the
when
Santa. You come bearing gifts.
when all is said and done, I mean, there's I'm pretty sure from what I've read, there's going to be some strange attacks. It's not just going to be business as usual.
Right.
You know, um, um, Victor, brother Sherif was just going through a series of events, starting with loans in the 19th century, coming to the 20th century. But you see, when you look at it, when you look at the history of these loans, actually, no country has been developed solely based on loans that they've taken from these donors and other partners. You see, we have a circumstance that should have been looked at and become something that should motivate all of us, so that we can be the example that other African countries should emulate. But we have now become rather the example that no other African countries should want to be simply because of our bad governance. And on this platform, I've said before, one of the major flaws in our system that led to the terrible destruction of our country was corruption. And I said one of the ways that I thought corruption could have been dealt with is to actually legislate, put it in the constitution. If you get rich overnight, you must account for that wealth. How you got rich, how you got that money. And so Ellen Johnson Sirleaf had the golden opportunity to set us on that path. But rather, she failed miserably. Whatever you see today is what Ellen put in place. And so when I heard Brother Sherry talks about things that we should have done, things that we could have done better, the opportunity was when we first have our first elected government, and so much was given to us, so much goodwill was there, so much assistance were available to us, and we squandered it. And instead of reflecting on what got us to where we are, we usher in a system that is even worse than what we had before. Now look at all these legislatures. Look at how much money they've allocated to themselves as salary and all these nonsense packs that they have allotted to themselves, and with no sense of conscious feeling that there are people who are downtrodden. There are people who can't even afford 3 square meals, and yet these people driving cars. They don't even have a good paved road to drive these cars on. And so all the ills that led us to where we were, we are seeing them being manifested in ways that is even worse than prior. So really, this MCC thing is just, and the only reason why they are curious about it, because it's one source of money where they know they're going to get money from, and they will squander it, and they're going to loot it as they've done in the past. So I'm not optimistic about anything, and sometimes it might sound so defeating, it might sound so discouraging, but it is our unfortunate reality, and we must say it as it is. I mean, irrespective of if I'm a partisan or not, that is the reality. Look at the content creators around the country. See what they are putting out there. See what they are trying to let the outside world to see. the few that are in charge, the few that are able to steal, instead of being humble about it, they are all over the place, robbing in the faces of these poor people who have no choice. I mean, I don't know anyone who has taken a trip to Liberia and come back optimistic. I don't know anyone. If anybody on the platform knows someone, let them tell me. Simply because we are just getting from worse to ridiculous. I mean, I, I, now I'm pretty sure people are having buyer's remorse. They've come to realize, we shouldn't have elected this Joseph Boakai. But it's after the fact. This is what we have, and until such time that we change course. And by changing course, I mean we need to go back and tackle some of the ills that led to the mess we had in a way that it will have a meaningful consequence for the masses, not the so-called elite that are governing, not the people who are in the legislature. You know, I mean, there are concrete steps that when we take, we can see, and the masses will see that we mean business. But from Ellen to today, it's just the same thing at a larger scale, at even a worse scale than we have prior. So, Brother Nagbe, this MCC thing is for me. I mean, look at the threshold. It's not something that I'm going to be excited about, even though the people who are going to be giving this money have already said it. It's not
Right.
just going to be just because Liberia has qualified.
You think there's a chance we will get some money?
Yeah, we will get some money, but there's going to be some string attached, because I don't know if you listen to what the embassy, the American embassy in Liberia said, the ambassador.
Right. So
Yeah.
thank you. Here's what troubles me, Mohammed. This is what troubles me, right? Our people are acting as if they already got the money, right? This is supposed to encourage you, right, to strive to do the right things, hit the marks on governance, fight, corruption, your legislation. And, we fill on a number of things, including poor governance, child health, education. So now you've gone past the first screening. You're now into round two. You should not be endeavoring to correct these. But our guys are already acting like we've already passed, and we're going to get the money. And this is what bothers me and bothers a lot of people. Do you think this president sees it that way? You're giving him you're being generous. You think he slip up, but if $8.9 million are already out of the budget for reconditioning the road, and yet is flying to Lofa. And I'll give him the fact that he's not the president. I say on the show the other night, he deserves some level of security and comfort. Yes, he can fly. But if he's flying because the roads are that impossible, is this a failure? Are we going to correct this problem? And now we're talking about corruption and the way he's acting, the statements he's making. Do you see us turning the corner and in year two, or should we brace ourselves for more disappointments to come?
Look,
Are we eventually going to turn things around? Hopefully, get this much needed infusion of cash from the MCC. Instead of all the loans we're running behind all over the place, this could be an opportunity if we play our cards right.
So look, J. Victor, I believe Tolbert was called Speedy, and his aircraft was Speedy 1.
Yeah.
And somebody was narrating the story the other day. And so when Speedy 1 goes to, say, for example, a county headquarters, and he would the president would take a car, would ride from, say, Zwedru to Wepo, right? Your home area. The president would ride in a vehicle from Zwedru to Wepo and back. So meaning that he will pass through the little towns and villages, like Bible Town, Putu, right? Jebo Putu, Kalipo, and then then he gets to Wepo, which was the district headquarters at the time. So then that allows the president to see things. That
Yes.
allows the president to see that the rules are developed, that the money is at work, right? But if the president is only flying in and flying out, what allows him to see what is going on the roads, right? So that's not a good sign that the
Mhm.
president flies in and out. That's not a good sign for me. Um, but here's something else. This MCC Millennium Challenge. This is something I don't like. I don't like this. I don't like that everybody, the government, not just Joseph Boakai now, but from before Boakai, the previous administrations have celebrated this, have celebrated the fact that we passed this and we're getting this money. Well, you know what? You're supposed to be doing this anyway,
Anyway, that's
right?
right.
You're supposed to be doing this anyway.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Don't say, "Oh yes, we're getting the money." Joseph Barker actually went in and made a whole speech about this, and people are clapping and you could see the approbation. But this is what the government is supposed to do anyway. Do not allow a Western power, the United States, to come in and lay down matrices for you and say, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, and then we'll give you this money. It's like, you're rewarding your kid candies, you're rewarding your kid some cookies, good behavior. If you study your lesson, you're gonna study, give me a 90,
Exactly what it is.
and then I'll get you some cookies, okay?
Right.
Give me 90, give me 95 next time. I give you some candy, whatever candy you want. Why are we being treated like kids in the candy store? Okay, a kid who does not do his homework or her homework, and now is being rewarded because you did your homework. You're supposed to do your homework anyway. Like, what are we doing as a nation? What are we doing to ourselves? J. Victor, this is wrong. Again, the UP people are going to come after me now. They're going to talk about this patriotism because they're the only, some of these people are probably the only patriots in their beliefs. So, what is wrong with us?
Yeah.
You are supposed to uphold the democratic tenets. You are supposed to make sure that you uphold the rule of law. You're supposed to be incorruptible. Okay, Gabriel mentioned Ghana. Where do our officials go for treatment? Tell me. They go to Ghana. Ghana got her independence in 1956. We are by far older. I don't need to say that, you know,
Over 100 years
but
older than Ghana.
over 100 years older than Ghana, and now we go for treatment to Ghana. And you know the new spot now is somewhere in Guinea. Zerikoria town is a southern town along the border with Liberia, almost along the
Right.
border with Liberia.
Right.
People from Liberia now are going into Guinea because the health sector now there is being developed, right, in that area of the southeastern Guinea. So people are now going there for treatment. This is from 100 and about 80-year-old country. JFK is it's almost non-existent. So what are we doing to ourselves that you have to now do something to behave and then wait for this Millennium Challenge money and everybody's celebrating this? I don't care about it. Again, I talked about the building last time, so I'm not going to talk about the burn out buildings that I said I didn't care about. Okay, I'm going to leave that as it is because that has caused some problems again. I'm I'm going to now say to you, J. Victor, I
It's like
don't.
we're falling from what is it? Falling from the frying pan to the fire, right?
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
it is.
Exactly.
now people are quitting because I said something like that. But I'll say this to you. I don't care about that money. I don't care about the Millennium Challenge money. I don't care about it. I do not care one bit because the criteria is for you to behave, and we'll
It's
give you
compliance.
this.
Yeah.
You have to comply with this. You have to comply with our standards. Our standards, the Westerners are telling you, the Americans are telling you, this is our standard. You have to comply with these standards, and then we will give you money. Why aren't you? The question is, that's the question. Why aren't you complying with those standards anyway with your own democratic standards, with things in your own constitution? As bad as this constitution is, this is a very bad constitution, by the way. But we're not even living by this constitution, this bad constitution. As bad as the 1986 constitution is, we're not even living by this. Somebody mentioned when Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, an activist who came into office with an opportunity to make some changes in this whole arrangement, she did not. Under her administration, there was a perfect opportunity to make changes. You know, there was supposed to be changes, even in the law. So the legislature has not made any significant changes. Okay, since after the Civil War, they've not made any significant changes. You could say that very surprisingly that under George Weah administration, there was some attempt to make movements in the positive direction legislatively. Okay, I have example. One of the examples is, which, you know, somebody reminded me that that actually started under Ellen, but Ellen didn't push it that hard. Under George Weah, there was an attempt to reduce the presidential term of office, the legislative term of office. What did the opposition do? They kick against it.
Yep.
The opposition kick. So what kind of opposition is this? They kick against it. And under George Weah, we're talking about, you know, the dual citizenship and all these different things that happened. Okay. So there were actually some achievement legislatively. So because the president, I'll conclude on this thought, because the president is very powerful in Liberia, I think that presidents should use their, you know, as we call it in the United States, their bully pulpit to make sure that good laws are passed. Because since the legislature is not going to do it, I think that a one-term president like Mr. Boakai has the opportunity now to ensure that good laws are enacted. You know, to ensure that this 1986 Constitution, a lot of the provisions in the 86 Constitution are changed. Why are we still sitting here 30 years later, 30 plus years later, we still have this bad Constitution? And, you know, so it's, yeah, Victor, I can go on and on and on with it. It's very frustrating. I'm very disenchanted with Liberia at this point in time. I'm very disenchanted, disappointed, and disillusioned, however way you want to put it, with the whole system.
Yeah. Welcome to the party, brother. So on the attempt under President Weah to reduce the time in office, at the time the understanding was there was an attachment also that will call for a referendum. And I understand once you go through that, the presidency at the time, the reset, meaning we as presidency would have reset, and then it would have begun at the end of that referendum. This guy was explained to me, and that would have given him a longer time in office. And this is where I think the opposition say, you know what, no, we're not having this. Although it's a good idea, but
that wasn't true. That wasn't true. He said that was not the case. And George Weah, because of the fact that you know, he's someone after this election, during this electoral process, we found that he has been somebody who has respected, right, the will of the people. Right. So let's give him that credit. Okay, he's somebody, as he himself said, that he's not about war. He's not this person. He's not belligerent, right? You can tell that he's not overly belligerent, right? Even if he's passive, but he's not overly belligerent. We know that he's accepted defeat before. He's allowed the you know, to go to, you know, when the opposition went to court after that election when he won, he waited. I mean, you could. There are other things, you know, that he's done that I have considered disapproved, but I don't think that George Weah would have redrawn the map to say, okay, my term start now, like Alpha Conde did in Guinea, which is the
Right.
reason why he was overthrown. An
Yeah.
old man, 80 plus years old,
Yeah.
after 2 terms, he redrew the constitution to try to go back there for another. He moved it from 5 years to 6 years, which is why the military intervened in Guinea. In Liberia, I don't think Joshua was trying to do that. That's not, and the opposition.
And I have to agree with you, Mohammed. As much as I disagree with President Weah's, performance as a president, that's one place I think where he's not being given enough credit. I mean, right now, we are the beacon now on the continent of how not, to fight, election results. I think Ghana recently just followed suit, even though I'm hearing some murmurings from the opposition. But yeah, I think he is introducing now on the continent that, look, whether you are incumbent or not, if you lose, you lose. You have to respect the
And
results.
dear Victor, I don't want to dominate this section, right? But
Go ahead.
please let me allow me. So if we are not careful with this demolition of the of our democracy, I think what's
Yeah.
going to come in 2029
Yeah.
is that a certain group of guys, not Boakai, because Boakai is one term,
Right.
they can as well hijack the result if they don't agree with the result. If you already have the legislature you in your pocket, if you have the Supreme Court in your pocket,
Yeah.
and you can then disregard the result of the election. So all of this that they're doing now, the Liberian people should not sit back and say it's okay, we will change in 2029.
Yeah.
What if any of these guys can come up in 2029 and say, look, we're not getting observers. We don't need observers over here. They can stop the ballot.
Yeah.
You go to the Supreme Court can side with them.
Yeah.
The
And
legislature can side with them.
there's some of them in there
Yes.
who are contemplating on running. I'm sorry. Go
But
ahead.
this
Brother.
is a mutilation that I've talked about of our democracy. So we have to be very, very, very careful right now. If this is allowed to stand in 2029, these guys can do bigger and badder things to our country.
Thank you. Okay. This is not on the schedule for discussion tonight, but as I was getting ready for the show, I meant to pass it by, the CEO and the producers. There is a situation between Liberia and Guinea, right? We talked about this on the show a couple of weeks back. There was an individual who was taking refuge here, being accused by the junta in Guinea of actively trying to bring back the individual that Mohammed just talked about back into power, and under some questionable arrangements, this individual seemed to have been sent back by the government.
I thought they said he disappeared, but did they find him?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. So in the midst of all of this, the president again is on tape reporting receiving 10 pickup trucks from Guinea. How do you interpret this? I mean, I was saying to myself, wait a minute, you have this ongoing situation. People are trying to understand what is happening, and then
dynamic, right?
Of all times, at this time, not Sierra Leone, not the Cote d'Ivoire, but Guinea is giving us 10 pickup trucks. Do we have to accept them?
And I think
let's talk a little bit about this.
Man, like you want it's like you want help. You want to give him a pass, but every time you try to give him a pass, he just go back and throws himself in the mud again. And
absolutely,
I think I agree with you. We discussed this incident when that individual, I think he was reportedly missing and brought into Liberia, and for some reason he was held in custody, and he somehow
his lawyer even went public as far as saying he was killed.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
So if we are now hearing that he is somehow in Guinea. I don't know if how true it is. I don't know if they're reporting that he went back to Guinea, but it's how can I even say this? Being able to read between, like my brother Sherry can say, the tea leaves. Like, even if you're at that incident where you have that kind of political dynamics happening, and I said I want to give you 10 pickups, the first inclination would be there is something here, and I think there's a perception that people could perceive as, it could have a negative impact.
Yeah.
Again, this is where you have your political advisors. There's economic advisors, there's political advisors. If you can't understand those things, how would this be perceived to the audience, the citizens, right? If I were the president, yes, I would have held up on those pickup, in as much that I think he may want to use those pickups for whatever reason.
Yeah.
um, I would have held up on those pickups. Again, then the next part of that conversation should be, why are they giving him the pickup,
Exactly.
right? I think, in that case, if you were to accept the pickups, the right thing to do is, you know, why are you accepting the pickup? Why were you giving the pickup in the first place? What is the relationship between the two countries for which all of a sudden they're giving you pickups, right? And I think, like, it kind of baffles me, because these are just common sense things that you and I and everybody would think about from the first instincts before we even act on them. Because especially if you're held in high regard, especially as a president, where you're held to that level, you need to think about everything from either a political, a economic, and most importantly, a perception standpoint. How are the citizen going to perceive this? How is that this going to be perceived on my presidency? Um, I don't. Sometimes I feel, yeah. Sometimes I feel sorry for the guy,
Gary, you're
but then
struggling,
again,
my man.
you gotta discount it because he's old. But then again, if he's old, this is why you have the advisors. This is the things that your legal, your political advisor is supposed to help you navigate. Politics is complex and it's dirty, and this is why it's not done by one person. You have a team around you, leverage them, make sure you bring them through in every decision you make. And if they can't help you make the decision, then yeah, you have the final say. But make sure you bring these things to your advisors. And if these decisions are being made with the help of his advisors, then I think he need new advisors. I keep saying this, and everybody keeps saying this thing. Like, he is being misled, and every time, this is common sense. That's why I'm struggling with it. Like, this is
Yeah.
not something you will struggle with. This is not something Mr. Sherry will struggle with. This is not something um, uh, Dr. Duke will struggle with, right? This is something. This is just basic common sense. So the fact that he is, making these kind of mistakes continuously, 10 months in, we haven't come on this show and say, man, this president's in a row. He's doing some things in a row. I think there's a little bit of tailwind behind him that he's no. I rest, man. I rest my
Yeah.
case.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel
find
your
out.
pain, brother. I hear you struggling. Duke, does this pass the smell test?
Again, it's sad and it's unfortunate. But I just wanted to reference something Brother Sharif said earlier about they needing to do their job for this MCC thing here. No, it goes right across the board, right across the national government of the Republic of Liberia. They have come to internalize doing things the way they are doing it as the way to do things. And like I said, this goes across the board. I mean, since when do we need pickups from Guinea, for God's sake? Okay, but basically, you have to look at it from the bigger picture. This is how we have come to internalize how our government should function. Now we should be told what to do, even though people were elected to do these things. And I always fall back to the late John Magufuli of Tanzania uh, when he did the incredible thing he did in just few years. And people ask him, how did you do it? He said, Tanzania did it because He told them we can do it without borrowing. We can do it by depending on ourselves. And he proved it because he meant to do it. He had the backing of the people and they presented the ideas to the people and the people bought into it. That is what is lacking in Liberia. We are excited about MCC requirement as if to say uh, we have nothing to do, but we should meet the requirement of the MCC. But beyond that, Victor, this is one of the things that when I talk about, Brother Sheriff talk about how the 1986 Constitution is bad, simply because the Constitution we have today does not reflect on anything we have beyond since the Civil War. When the thing to do should have been whatever Constitution we're going to be dealing with after the war should be something that will reflect on all the ills that led us to the war, or to deal with all the ills to avoid them so that we don't repeat them. But no, but I think the Constitution is the last thing that anybody will talk about. Victor, I think you and I we spoke about this event when it first occurred. The questionable circumstances under which this guy was transferred to Guinea, or he was taken out of Liberia. We spoke about it. I mean, even somebody who is not a student of politics, you can just see the rudimentary steps that a government should take when you have law enforcement agencies, you have legal scholars, I mean, luminaries that are around you. At any moment, at any point in time, you can access their advice. But no, we have come to internalize this way of doing or this way of governing as the proper way. So, we need the leader who is going to be willing to undo some of these things as unconventional as they might be to the people. Because trust me, there's going to be a huge resistance to anything that is going to be meant to undo what we have now come to normalize. Because they are not going to be sitting idly by and let anyone. But because of the way our government functions through the presidency, if we have a leader who is visionary and who is determined to move our country forward, trust me, it can be done. It can be done. But right now, Joseph Boakai is not the person who can do it. And he has exemplified that in so many things that he has done since he came to power January 2024. So, it's almost like a beating beating on a dead donkey. We are going in circle. I mean, there's not a government agency you can point to that is clean. There's not a government institution that you can point to that you say, okay, you know what? After this government, the United Party government this time is doing X, Y, Z, and this should be continued or this should be followed. No, brother Victor, you can see. So we have not seen the 40 years experience bearing nothing on what we've seen so far. Is there actually a hope that we might see some down the road, come 2025 and upward? I don't think so. Because the statement that the president made in Lofa is a good indication of how he's thinking about this corruption thing. And again, the manner that it is, the way this thing is tearing our fabric apart, the way this corruption thing is devastating our country. If only somebody pay 10%, I don't mean even 30%, 10% attention to deal with the waste in just government agencies. Brother Victor, Brother Sharif, Brother Gabriel, you will see tangible results in less than 12 months. But you have to have the leader who is determined to fight this man, a leader who wants to see results. And again, like I said, Ellen Johnson said it was the one who pinned our hope on. She was the one who had all the international connections, and we saw how miserable she left our country. we saw how devastating she left our country. So I have zero hope in the unity party government that we have right now, brother Victor. I mean, I'm sorry to say it the way I'm saying it, but it just I don't see any other way of saying
I
it.
mean, I think you and Mohammed, you do have a point there about the need to revisit the 1986 Constitution, which is a pre-war constitution. It does, I don't think it reflects any of our post-war realities today. I think
That's
that,
right.
yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a great point. I think the Constitution probably needs to be revisited and revised, to accommodate some of the realities we're living today. But thank you. But Duke, I
There
mean,
was a committee. There was a committee set up to do that, right? Didn't the former president Salih set up a committee to review
there
that
was,
constitution
I don't
to revise?
remember.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was. Yeah.
I don't
It,
remember.
it was actually talked about. The Stalin actually talked about it,
Okay,
and but the committee was never constituted.
okay. Mohammed.
I think they met in Banga, right? I think there was a committee.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then remember that was the time Jewel Howard Taylor
Yes.
was this all of a sudden new evangelist
Yep.
that wanted to Christianize Liberia. I don't know where she came from with this. You
Okay.
know, after she's been silent about the atrocities of her husband. But yeah,
You want to comment a little bit on the Guinea thing, Mohammed?
so what I'm going to say is that Liberia has a non-aggression pact with Guinea. So this goes back to I don't know when. I mean, it's a long time non-aggression pact. I believe it started with the MRU, the Minor River Union, I believe,
Yeah.
and with Tolbert and Sekou Touré. So in '79, right? '79. When you guys were doing your thing. So I think that the same Guinea troops. I
That
think
was
that
a straight jab. That was a jab.
That was a low blow, but go
I,
ahead.
I think I think Secretary sent Guinean troops to
Yes,
to to,
he,
to, to
he did.
beef up defense for Tolbert. But
He
then
did.
there was all this, talk about, these guys need to go, they don't belong
Yeah, but
here.
Mohammed, you will carry on though. But you're talking about an interaction between a constitutionally elected government and another, right? Here
Right,
we're
right.
talking.
But it's a
We're talking about.
basis for this now. There's a basis for all of this. It's the
Okay.
non-aggression pact.
Yeah.
So, you fast forward to this moment. I mean, even with the whole ECOMOG and whatnot, you heard some of the testimonies that said that, Guinean troops were ready to come in, to assist Doe, during the war because it was an aggression. Doe said this is an aggression from Cote d'Ivoire against Liberia. So they were ready to come in.
Right.
So they were ready to come in and die on Liberian soil to uphold that non-aggression pact. When you have this situation, I don't know, and the best thing could have been for the courts to decide, right? I don't know what happened. They're saying that this man disappeared, whatever happened, but the courts could have decided, and the courts would have probably decided, right, to honor the non-aggression pact with Guinea, perhaps, right? And then, the administration can just, wash their hands off of it and say, look, this is what the court decided.
Right.
I didn't do this, the court decided this. But because the court did not decide, it looks bad on the part of the administration if anything should happen to this man. The other thing I'm going to say is how did Guinean intelligence pick up any kind of activity that was being carried on the Liberian side of the border? Lastly, Front Page Africa put up all kinds of information about the alleged ringleader. And they're saying that this alleged ringleader was born in Guinea. Hence, this person is a Guinean. So before we jump into this, we have to understand all facets of this. So if Guinea says our citizen is here in your country, we this is our citizen. We have record, which was actually published in the Liberian daily newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
So what is Liberia defense then? A country that had just that experienced cross border attack from the Ivory Coast decades ago will be very wary when such thing come to their attention.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very difficult thing to navigate. But I've never heard about this. These pickup trucks that was given to the government. Was this something that was reported recently? I don't know.
Actually, I did hear the president myself. One of his remarks announced that the government of Guinea had given 10 pickup trucks to the government of Liberia.
Again, this is the same thing that we're saying. So we are this big borrowing nation, and we all hand out. If we're not borrowing, we're putting our hands out to everybody.
Even to the
right?
another begging country.
Brother Sharif, all what you just described, that's the proper way of doing things you just described.
Yeah.
Any government would do that. You go to the court, let the court determine the course of action that should be followed. That's how any normal. We are not having a normal government function in Liberia. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
It's just on the whim of somebody somewhere, and then they will just do things. That's how they've been functioning, Brother Sharif.
Yeah.
There's
A
no
friend of mine.
constitutionalist.
I was with a friend of
constitutional
mine.
lawyer there.
I was with a friend of mine, and this is during the refugee time. There's a refugee organization called MSF. It's actually a medical relief organization.
Medicine Sans Frontières.
Yeah.
There was a guy working with Medicine Sans
Medicine
Frontières.
Without Borders, yes.
Yes, in Guinea. A friend of mine, whatever it was having a discussion. We were refugees, and something the guy said, I felt was very was racial in tone, and he said, "I heard that your people, you always see their palm, you never see the back of their hand." So he did this. He did that gesture. You never see this, but you always see this.
Okay.
This is a white man.
Yeah.
From Belgium, working for Medicine Sans Frontières.
Mm-hmm.
So my friend quickly told him, and I like what my friend did. My friend told him, he said, "I, as young as I am," he said, "from back home, I was running my own business. I didn't rely on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
My parents had their own business. I was running my own business, independent of my parents, and at the same time, I was going to school. And my friend told him that while I'm here, I have a farm. We came here, we're struggling people, but I have a farm. So most of us are not dependent on any. So my friend really pushed back on that concept, on that mentality they have of Liberians, and this is years ago. So now, how would this man, a white man, be able to know some of these things if people are not telling him, and if he's not seeing something along those lines, or something we're talking about now? Why are we always? Our governments are begging. Our governments are beggars. We're beggars, and then we beg, right, to pay ourselves. The millions of dollars that's being used. Dear Victor, we never even talk about that tonight.
Fraud, waste,
and abuse. The vehicles, and this is not just the presidency. We're talking now the entire governmental system, the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, all the apparatus of government. These legislators, they have cars every 2 years. Free gasoline.
Yeah.
Free cars, free phones, free minutes. Why? Somebody can tell me, why does a legislator needs a free vehicle every 2 or 3 years in a very allegedly very poor country.
Yeah.
Does this make any sense? This does not make any iota of sense
Yep.
unless you just try to destroy your country. And these guys, they don't care. The few that care, the few that are in the legislature, I mean, there are some good people, decent people in that legislature, I can tell you. But their hands are tied. Maybe if you have 4 to 5 people, their hands are very, very tied, and they can't even do anything. So it's like in the sea of despair, in the
Yeah.
sea, the system is rotten. You have this 1 or 2, 3 people that are just swimming for dear life.
Yeah.
And, and it's almost like there's no hope. It's almost like there's no hope. We need finally a leader now that will come along and clean up in a very, very fundamental way. And Joseph Boakai could have been that leader
This
because
is the
he's one
disappointment
term.
that a lot of us are feeling. Go ahead.
He's one term.
Yeah.
So your one term is like,
Yep.
I don't care. I'm going to come here and just
Yes.
clean up the mess.
Yep.
But how you one term and then you indulging in things like you're going for a second term?
Yeah.
How?
So you just end there with, I guess, the most fundamental statement. We really thought this president, and I'll be honest with you, I supported the CPP presidency, but he won. And, a lot of us said, well, okay, this guy could be the disruptor we've been looking for the same reason you just stated. He doesn't have much to lose. He's not going to run for a re-election, So he's just going to go there and bring the bulldozer but he just came and felt like a little dry leaf, no motion, no action, nothing. And it is really frustrating, Mohammed. I think it was Brother Dukley who said, you go in a region, you're embarrassed. Look, when we were growing up, we thought Liberia was the best country in the whole region. We were laughing at Ghanaian, Sierra Leonean, they come to but go to Ghana.
That was then.
That was then. You go to the Post Sky Bar, you go to the same bar. It's like you're in Europe. And then you come home, if you don't go to Calabar, where else do you go?
Victor, we used to laugh at our French teacher.
Yes.
Michel came from Africa. We used to
Thank
laugh
you.
at him.
The
The guy would say, but y'all stop, some of you guys are, oh man, Michel, who going to Africa Coast? We're not going nowhere. We're staying
nowhere.
Brother Mohammed, is that Mustafa Seydu?
Yes, they do, yeah.
Yeah, Mustafa Seydu from Ivory Coast.
No, this is a different guy. This was Williams Wedrew.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't know. You probably remember the Ganta Hapa Highway thing that was going on in the 80s.
Yeah.
And they had Olivia Shannon on the commercial of it.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was 1982. I don't quite remember, but I remember telling somebody until you see the president cutting the ribbon.
Yeah.
Don't put your mind on it.
That's $50 million in the budget started from those time.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was $50 million earmarked for that Ganda Highway project.
Yeah.
And it never materialized.
No. Almost 45 years later, it hasn't happened.
Yeah. I mean, I come from there. When I go home, I haven't gone home in a while. But if you're going home, don't plan on going for a week because you might spend a week on the road just going.
That's right.
Wow.
And we were promised a coastal highway.
Yeah. Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much. We've done great tonight with the time and all that. I know there are not many of us on set, so we stretch a little bit and we talk. But I think we're having a good time. We were told in the chat here that indeed, President Sirleaf did set up the Constitutional Review Committee. I think it was headed by Gloria Musso-Scott, as it's written by Panando, I believe, in the chat here. Thank you very much. I don't know what Wally is talking about coming, so I'm not gonna bite on that. But let's close, and in your closing, let's look to the future. 1 year behind us. Let's let's lighten up a little bit. Let's forget about. Of course, Maya Angelou said, "Why the best predictor of your future performance, right, is what is behind you." But let's
Mhm.
let's look ahead and and you know look in the crystal ball and prognosticate. Starting with you, Gabe. Let's look to 2025.
Yeah, thank you. I think this was a great show. I, I don't know if I want to prognosticate because I just uh, when it comes to Liberia, I think I'm a little kind of a pessimist when it comes to everything that's been happening, especially in this administration. Um, but for the sake of being optimistic, I think I would say what I've always said here before. If this president is really, like we said, the old people are usually wise. If he's a wise man with 42 years of experience, hopefully this new year he can take some time off, you know, go to, go to a retreat by himself or with a few of his advisors and really assess himself. Put yourself in the mirror and or everything that he's done so far over these 11 months or so,
But
and
this is
really
the
assess
thing,
it.
Gabe. Even even the retreat themselves have become scandalous. I mean, that's where they go to announce all these. I don't know, but anyway, I'm sorry to cut you in there. Go
No, when
ahead, Gabe.
no, when I say retreat, I don't mean something elaborate, but something very intimate with him and just his advisors, his
Yeah.
economic advisors, political advisors, legal advisors. Well, to say, hey, this is all the decision we have taken so far during this year, right? You can look at every decision you have made. You can look at your economy from the economic team. You can look at the political side from your political team, and you can look at your decision in its entirety, your entire political career, not political career, but the entire term over the year, and really be honest with yourself. How do we think we have done? How do you guys think I have done? Right? And with that assessment can now drive how you make decision going forward to 2025. Right? With that, you come out of there with a roadmap in front of you for 2025. Meaning, if I have taken this many decisions, and from so far we have seen, there's been a lot of backlash. People are saying that I'm failing, I'm even doing worse. That means there is something that I'm doing wrong. That means the decisions that I've been taking are not what is aligning with any political ambition that we may have, a commitment we may have outlined in our campaign, right? Or what I think personally I wanted to achieve as a president. And how do I shift that narrative going forward? Right. So that would be my advice to him. And I think uh, on a broader scheme of team, I don't think there's going to be any change. In as much that I hope that happens, I think we are going to see every a repeat of what's been happening so far. But my advice, and this I would land on this to his administration and his team and his advisors, would be if you're not careful, you'll repeat what we had did to lose that compact grant because of your blatant corruption and your failure to act on corrupt cases. You know, the the compact grant MCC could rescind that approval, and you will be left in the dust with all these loans on your hand that you can pay for, and all these things that you earmarked it for. You won't be able to do that. So, other than that, this was a great show. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Gabe. Thank you very much. I mean, the state of the nation will be interesting. We'll see. Duke. Let's look ahead, brother. Look to 2025. What do you see
Yeah, I
happen?
think I hope the government should have a moment of reflection on the first year of their government. Hopefully, to come up with some changes that will be reflective of where they want to take us. Because I mean, what we've seen so far has not been what we all expected. But at least I think somebody said it. That there are some good people, some people who mean well for Liberia who are within this government. It's just I know it's very difficult when you are when you mean to do something and you're surrounded by people whose intentions are to destroy what you are building. It's very challenging. It can be very difficult. But I hope that the few that are there who mean well for Liberia can try to find a way to thrive among them. You know, and hopefully the president will, since he's going to be serving on one term, maybe that becomes something that will motivate him to focus on a legacy that we will all talk about as he leaves the office. You know, that's just my hope, so that when he leaves the office, we can at least point to something that he has done, reflective of all what we've heard about him. You know, and my thing is, this corruption is a big part of everything that is happening in Liberia. At least try to set the stage for something that will come later that will help to deal with this manner.
Thank you, Duke. Mohammed,
Yeah.
let's look to 2025, man. You think there's gonna be shake up in the making, reshuffle, or the what? Anyway, what do you see happening 2025?
I think Boakai has the shown the proclivity to at least make changes, to make new appointments, which was different from where I didn't make any reshuffles at all. So, but the question is, if you make the reshuffle, what good is it? What are they going to do? What I see, I hope that 2025 will be different in terms of this accumulation of power. You saw that Kuhn was, MDR, right? So quickly, for some reason, he was forced out of MDR, or he gave up on MDR. Now he's part of the Unity Party. He was
Mhm.
never a member of the Unity Party. So these
I
guys.
understand they said it was a precondition to him being drafted on the ticket. He had to join the UP.
Yeah,
Right, but from the beginning, that wasn't the situation.
Yeah,
They told Prince Johnson, this was a coalition, and now he's Unity Party.
yeah.
Now you go to the legislature,
wow.
you want the speakership, so you try this attempted coup and to take the speaker out. Okay, why do you want all this power? For what? Is this for the good of the Liberian people? That's the question I want to know. If he's doing all of this, at the end of the day, if they win this contest to remove Kofa, is this going to be something that he's going to then say, I was doing this for you, average Liberians. This is the reason why I wanted him removed. I wanted each of you to have a school in your district. With the university closed, nowhere in West Africa right now that their universities are closed. Sierra Leone, all their universities are open.
Yeah.
Guinea has all their universities open. Ivory Coast, I can't talk about Ivory Coast. Burkina Faso, with the challenges that they have with bandits and terrorists in the north attacking them for no reason. Okay, they have their schools open, and even in areas where schools are not open, they have been very creative right now. Because I followed the Burkina events in Burkina Faso. I watched the Burkinabe television from time to time. They're very creative in terms of, kids that are out of school, they're using their radio. So they go on the radio, you know, the teacher will make presentation. So even the kids that are, spread
That's smart.
around,
That's very
teachers
smart.
are learning facility. They're able to reach those students that are displaced. Mali, these people are still going to school. Mali has its own challenges with terrorists as well in the north, and there's still the schools going on there. Liberia is normal. This is a normal situation. We have a normal president, normal leadership. Nothing going on anywhere in Liberia, and yet we have our university shut down for no reason other than the fact that we probably can't foot the bills, or students, we don't like what's going on. It doesn't matter. So that's how you know that an administration is serious. So 2025, if they show me that the university is open, If they show me that they're concerned about roads, y'all know me, the roads, these roads. If the president, he said in the first 90 days and no car gets stuck in the mud, if the president goes in 2025, okay, you said it, J. Victor, 9 months has passed, okay, whatever. But in 2025, by March of 2025, April of 2025, if he can show me that these machines are on the road cleaning up and actually a plan, a long-term plan to build good roads, not just clearing the road, not just clearing the mud, then I will have hope. I will also have hope if he's able to resolve this impasse in the legislature, because this is their own making. This is the making of the Unity Party. I don't care what anybody says. This was contrived by the Unity Party people to remove this speaker. If George Weah removed Kabina Jana was wrong. We all condemned that on this show.
Yeah.
So this is wrong also. You know what's funny? The same people who supported me, you know, when I talk about George Weah removing Kabina Jana and was shouting, yeah, you know, excellent. As the same people now, they're disagreeing with me because now the shoes is on the other foot.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm not tied to any the shoestrings of any of the political, any set of political ideologies.
What is right is right.
What is right is right.
Regardless of which side it is on. But thank you very much, brother Mohammed. Thank you so much. Thanks to our audience. Pretty interactive tonight. You know, I think we had a great show. I like to be optimistic looking to 2025. But like you mentioned, especially the stalemate in the legislature. I think that is a potential problem area going into 2025. I don't think Kofa is going to let up easily. So that is going to pose a problem. But I think the government will do everything to move to this next stage of the MCC challenge. So because of that, I think there is room for improvement, but we'll see. But
And
thank
Jim,
you
just
so much.
for one thing before you close.
Yes.
You said on one of the other shows, I think was on point with Jerome, you said that Kofa should resign because he hasn't been able to bring anybody closer to him. I disagree with you. I disagree with you on that. How is he going to bring people over when these guys, his opponents, are sitting on a pile of cash? They're sitting on the national resources. They're buying people. They're purchasing people at hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Yeka Koluba told you $500,000 per lawmaker.
Your disagreement is noted.
Well, how is Kofa, who doesn't limited resources, how is he going to buy? How's he going to spend $500,000 per gutless, spineless people with no backbones? I mentioned in the chat room, these guys have no backbones. They have no spines. They need to see a doctor for a transplant to go and get some spines, to get some backbones, and you know what else? I'm not going to say that on the family show.
So my statement about Kofa was
we read between the tea leaves, sir.
Yeah, the move the country forward. But I agree with you. I think what is happening at the capital is wrong, and it shouldn't have happened. But this is where we are. But listen, gentlemen, we're far past Gabriel's bedtime, so we have to shut it down. But thank you very much. Great show. Let's look forward to next Friday. And Happy New Year to you all.
All right, thank you.
Well,
good night.
are we going to be here before the New Year, right? I think so.
Probably so.
Okay. All right.
I think so. We should.
Okay, good night. And by the way, good luck to Lone Star. I think they take on Senegal tomorrow. I think the first leg last week was a draw, 1-1.
Okay.
So I think they play Senegal today now in Liberia, which is tomorrow for us. But good luck to the Lone Star.
Victor, don't hold your breath.
Go Lone Star.
I hate to say it, but don't hold your breath.
All right, gentlemen. Mr. C, if you're there, please take us home.
Thank you.
We all Liberians.